Hi, I'm MarzGurl.
I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
Welcome to episode 114 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover Season 2, Episode 62 of City Hunter, titled, Good Luck, My Sweeper, City Streets for the Both of Us, Part 2.
Of 3.
Of 3. These are the last 2 episodes. Last couple of times we're going to hear Sarah.
That's a good song, though.
Yeah, it's my favorite opening out of all the City Hunter openings.
It's pretty close for me. I mean, really can't beat opening number 1 because it's the first one.
I get it. A lot of people have a lot of partiality toward Aoki and Aide. I really like Sarah.
No, I do too. I think Sarah may be one of the better animated openings for sure.
I think for me, it's Sarah, then Aoki and Aide, then I guess Go-Go Heaven.
I guess, like, from that point on, it's a real steep drop, honestly.
Yeah. That's just kind of the way it goes when it comes to the opening themes. Like, ending themes, nothing beats Get Wild, ever.
Supergirl's pretty close.
Supergirl is pretty close to number 2 for sure. And then, I don't know how I feel
don't
about the
know.
other ones. The other ones are just kind of off in a group by themselves.
Yeah, you've got your top 2, and what others?
And everybody else go home. That's pretty much how that breaks down.
Well, I don't know. This other TM Network one,
What,
Still Love Her? Yeah, is pretty good.
Well, no,
actually.
it's nice. I guess I'll put that in number 3 for me.
All the rest of them, I forget them very quickly.
No, I know. Like, the ones we're about to go into here in City Hunter 3, it's, well, we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So before we get started with today's episode of the podcast, we did want to go ahead and go back over to the trailer that we talked about last week for the Netflix City Hunter adaptation, which is coming up very soon. And we did want to talk a little bit about the response it's getting. It's got a little over 250,000 views now.
At least on just the English North American upload from Netflix, because there is an upload for like every region that is getting this movie.
And to their credit, the French upload does have it listed as Nikki Larson.
Yeah, they're still calling all of their characters by their French names. It's subtitled and dubbed.
And what's weird is, from what we could tell, there is going to be a dub for the English release. You just have to go look for the teaser of it, because it's not on YouTube proper.
No, or if it is, it's some fan upload. It's not an official Netflix upload. But yeah, if you go to the official Netflix page on Netflix for this movie, and you look at the teaser trailer, they'll let you see the English dub of the teaser trailer. And then the trailer that just came out last week does not have the dub on it, not as far as I can tell as of yet. So we still don't actually know who any of these actors are.
No.
I'm not sure how I feel about some of these lines and their delivery. I guess I'm gonna have to hear more of it.
Like, this is gonna be one of those cases, I imagine, where we're watching it both in Japanese and English, right?
Yeah, I think this might be one where I watch it in Japanese first, though.
Yeah, that one's for enjoyment.
Yeah.
And then the second one is for research. It's basically what we did with 357 Magnum.
I'm very curious, who is Ryo? I do kind of want to know.
Yeah, I do kind of want to know who was in on this, so I can be like, hey, that's cool. But looking at these comments here left on the trailer, this longer trailer, we do see that they are mostly positive.
Largely, yeah. I was very relieved because there's a lot of people who are like, oh, good, City Hunter, this one looks like it's going to be faithful to the manga, to the anime, whatever, you know.
It's going to be hard to beat the French version, but I'm hopeful for this one, like those kind of comments.
Yeah, those people actually know what City Hunter is, and that is a relief.
And then beyond that, it falls into 2 or 3 other categories. There's a couple of questions that come up. One, where's Umibozu? A legitimate question.
Very true.
An even more legitimate question, where the hell is Kaori's hammer, to varying degrees of anger? And 3, where's Jackie Chan at?
Well, it's more like, yeah, you're never gonna beat Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan's the GOAT. He's the original City Hunter. I'm like, are you kidding me?
But thankfully, those of you who have commented on the YouTube version have been doing the Lord's work and are going into these comments and clapping these guys down like, you guys don't know what City Hunter even is. Real City Hunter fans know that movie doesn't even count.
Almost every single person who came in like, oh, you're never gonna beat Jackie Chan, City Hunter, gets a couple of replies replies like, we don't even talk about that City Hunter. Jackie Chan City Hunter is shit. Even Jackie Chan didn't like Jackie Chan City Hunter. Sit down. Real ones know this is not...
And to be honest, none of those comments came from either one of us.
No. It
We
wasn't
did not
us
do
this time.
So you real ones out in the field, we salute you from over here at MokkoriPlay. You are doing it and doing it real.
And then the slightly varying version of that comment is like, City Hunter? Wow, like the Korean drama? And I'm just like, oh, you guys are still around, huh?
I didn't realize you guys are still here. And admittedly, again, I can't speak to that too much since I haven't seen it.
Right.
I do know there are some very adamant fans of it.
And they're going to be very confused by this.
Well, yeah, both them,
if that's their only...
Both them and the Jackie Chan people are going to see this and be like, how come it's not like what I saw? Because both of what you saw wasn't accurate, baby. That ain't it. This is closer to being it. Get with the program.
It might be the most accurate one. I would say the French one is pretty darn close, except, like, you do have to make the conceit that these are white people.
In France.
In France, with different names. But aside from that, their plot is correct?
No, the plot, the characterizations, the soundtrack, the sound cues, there is so much right with that movie.
Yeah.
Cowboy Bebop could never.
Could never.
All they got was Yoko Kanno back and some costumes, and they called it a day.
Yeah, that's not good enough.
It wasn't good enough. You had to have the heart of the thing. That's why One Piece worked.
Exactly.
One Piece clearly had the heart of what the original was in mind, and that's why it worked.
And somehow the French understood the assignment.
They absolutely understood the assignment. They did extra credit, is what they did.
So for as much as the French are obviously not Japanese people in Japan, it's gonna be hard to compete in my heart for, like, clearly this one is going to be more accurate in a lot of ways, right? But it's gonna be hard to compete in my heart with Nicky Larson. That's gonna be really hard.
Well, see, it's the same thing we say about a lot of adaptations, is that no matter how good or bad this one is, it doesn't erase Nicky Larson.
No, it doesn't, because Nicky Larson is better than Jackie Chan, what can I say?
That's facts.
Fact.
So it's nice to know that people are in fact looking forward to this movie and are out there making sure the Jackie Chan people learn what's up.
Somebody's got to tell them.
If not us, then who?
Those guys. Apparently the other people who watch City Hunter.
Y'all real ones for that. But that having been said, let's go ahead and get into part 2 of this 3-parter. And of course, because it's a 3-parter, we're starting off with a recap.
Remember what happened last time? Ryo was very excited because some hot, sexy lady with a fat ass was gonna show up in Japan.
Turns out he knows that fat ass. It's his former partner, Mary.
So she shows up. In fact, she shows up early. Ryo doesn't even want to hang out with her, actually, but she just kind of forces herself into their lives and then starts stirring up shit and making Kaori feel uncomfortable and bragging that she knows everything about Ryo, including, hey, you want to know all of his backstory? Here it is. He doesn't know his own birthday. He grew up in guerrilla warfare as a small child in Central America, and he only knows war, so maybe you're not good enough for him, Kaori. Bye!
And thankfully, Umibozu came in clutch at the end of the episode to be like, hey, she didn't know any of that shit, her daddy told her that, you're still good.
And so Kaori feels a lot better, and that's basically where we're at right now.
Yeah, we just condensed that whole episode into like a minute. But still listen to last week's episode, it was a good episode. So putting all that back together, at the end of the episode, Umibozu came in clutch and explained to Kaori all the context she needed for everything that Mary was telling her about Ryo's past, and gave her some calm, some peace of mind about it. Meanwhile, Ryo has been actually stressed out this whole time, because he's fully convinced that once Kaori finds out that he grew up as a child soldier, and that he doesn't know hardly anything about himself, that she's gonna leave him. So he's up on the roof of their building, just like sighing and looking up at the neon city lights.
Just feeling real sorry for himself right now.
And I need you guys who have been really shipping the two of them together to buckle the hell up right now, because we're getting a lot right now.
Good, we need some progress.
Well, we're about to have it, so here comes Kaori up the stairs to the roof being like, hey, Ryo, what's up?
Hey, what are you doing up here?
And the first thing Kaori does, once Ryo has greeted her like, hey, what are you doing here? She socks him in the face.
Was it an open palm or was it a fist?
I saw a fist.
She just punched him then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And Ryo is like, well, what was that for? Because actually he genuinely hasn't done all that much wrong. In fact, he was trying to avoid all of this shit.
Well, on top of that, earlier when he was hitting on somebody in the street, that woman punished him for doing that. So currently his ledger's at 0. He's actually paid up for everything right now.
So Kaori explains that she was mad solely because he didn't trust her enough to tell her all of his backstory.
And she's telling him, look, I'm mad at you because you didn't tell me any of this stuff. You didn't trust me. You kept this from me. But because of everything that happened, because I found out you grew up in a war-torn country and all this stuff was happening to you and you went through so much terrible stuff, I guess I should help you heal as a person.
It's kind of a 180 from the punch to the face you just gave this man, but alright, I guess if you're gonna be nice now. Following that up, she says, okay, well, first of all, we have to start by actually giving you a birthday, because you don't know when yours is, so I'm just gonna pick a day, and that day is going to be March 26th. Also, you're a 30-year-old man.
Congratulations, happy birthday. You're 30 now. And he's like, what? Don't I get a say in that? Can't I still be in my 20s?
No, you're a man. Just take responsibility and just put up with it. Deal with it. And you better be grateful for it, too, because nobody else gave you a birthday, but I did. So, put up with it.
And I'm going to celebrate it with you because you don't have your parents to do it. So, I'm going to stand in for them. And I'm going to make sure you always have someone to celebrate your birthday with you. Okay? That's what it is.
And she's being real forceful about it, but it's actually a real power move. It's just such a nice thing for somebody to do, even if she's saying it like really forcefully.
Like she's doing all the things very quickly to show that Ryo has nothing to worry about, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's the motivation here.
That, hey, if nobody else bothered to care or wonder or even ask any of these things about you, somebody should be there to do that. Guess it's gotta be me, Kaori rolling her sleeves up.
I mean, her sleeves are rolled up, aren't they?
I mean, we don't physically watch her push them up in that manner, but I say it like, there's a reason why I say that. You know what I mean when I say rolling up my sleeves.
Well, because think about it, though. When you put that in context here, as we talked about last week, Ryo's had about 4 partners, 5 counting Kaori.
Uh-huh.
None of them bothered to do what she just did right now.
Yeah.
To stand in and be like, you know what? We're celebrating a day for you. We're going to make sure there's a day where you feel happy and other people get to share that they're happy that you're around and you've been around for another year. That's meaningful on a lot of levels. I remember a time where you did that for me right after we officially became friends. This will tell you how long we've known each other. It was back on my 20th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it very well. I told you and all your buddies that, hey, it was my birthday, but I didn't have any plans because at the time, my other friends, my family, my girlfriend at the time, none of them had made any plans for my birthday that year.
And to me, I mean, it felt really obvious that somebody should do something. It just didn't make any sort of sense to me. Like, this is just the obvious thing. I wasn't, like, trying to do some crazy hot shit or anything. I was just like, this just doesn't seem right. Like, somebody should do something for this person.
And you did that without any prompting beyond that. Like, I wasn't doing it for sympathy or anything like that. But
no, you just made a statement. Because I asked, what are you going to do? And you're just like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, which was me downplaying that nobody had made any plans for me, because it's kind of weird when you make your own. But you went out of your way, you're like, all right, what do you want to eat? Taco Cabana. All right, we're going to Taco Cabana. And then after that, we're getting you a cake. Like,
yeah, because I do remember very specifically, because I think your memories are stronger about certain things, but I do remember very specifically, I went out and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know everything that he likes or what he wants to do or anything, but at least something. And I got these stupid little party poppers, and I remember we drove up into your driveway, and as you came out, I rolled down the window and I pulled the thing, went pa! And all this confetti came out through the window, and you were just like, oh.
It was great. It made me very happy.
Yeah.
And so in that regard, I understand Ryo's mindset at this point, that somebody going out of their way to do this for you can mean the world. But then on top of that, you factor in that Ryo feels the way that he does about Kaori, that he's been worried this whole time that she might be turning his back on him. And now here he is finding out, no, not only is she accepting you and what you've done, she's also telling you, I'm going to be here for years to come and celebrate your life with you.
She's doubling down.
Yeah, she's doubling down. And so Ryo tells her, thank you so much. Here, let me show my thanks. And no hesitation, he pulls her in and gives her a kiss on the forehead. And you can see the shock on her face.
Because under normal circumstances, even if Kaori was being just kinda sorta a little nice, Ryo would typically play that shit off and just be like, oh, she's gonna do whatever she's gonna do, I guess, and then just pretend that it didn't mean as much to him as it probably actually did. But if he did this, it must have meant so much to him that he couldn't do anything else.
Because think about what's going through his head right now. It's a combination of, relief, of joy, of love, I would argue.
That nobody else in his life in all of this time even bothered to do any of that shit for him, no matter how close he was to anybody. I mean, if this means also that Kaori's brother, that Makimura, never did anything like that, you saw the first few episodes, it seemed like they were pretty friendly with each other.
Yeah, they had a good working relationship with each other, but then that tells you Makimura didn't bother asking anything, or if he knew, he probably just never brought it up.
Yeah.
But Kaori here, she's addressing it head on. No, you have a birthday now.
And that meant something.
And so here, it's not just the kiss on the forehead. For the shippers out there, your hearts are exploding with joy. On top of that, he says in English, thank you, partner Kun.
I mean, English until the Kun.
The Kun. But if you understand your Japanese honorifics here, Kun is incredibly familiar.
Sure, and I understand there's some debate over whether Chan and Kun are a little more girly or a little more boyish, but also there have been arguments of, Kun has been kind of cutesy for either gender for a while now, so...
But it's the fact that Ryo has never referred to her as Kaori Kun.
Yeah, he just uses her name, which already is very familiar, and you usually wouldn't use that for somebody unless you were pretty close to them. So here's the argument. Either he's always felt pretty close to her, because you can kind of argue the entire length of the series. Are they close? They're probably pretty close, but also depending on context, if you don't use an honorific at all, it's really rude.
That's usually how I've heard it.
But Kaori doesn't use an honorific with Ryo either.
Well, most of the time she's pissed at him.
Yeah, so are we saying then that they refer to each other by given name all the time just because they're always rude with each other?
I mean, kind of. And so the fact that he's gone out of his way to use that honorific with her is a way of showing endearment, because that has never been there before. I've been clocking it. Sometimes it'll be Kaori-chan in jest.
That's true.
When he's
trying to butter her up or something.
Butter her up or play something off, and the hammer's not too far off after that. But here, there's none of that. Mm-hmm. He's not trying to play anything off. This is as close as he's been in about, 20 episodes to admitting how he feels.
Yeah, it's certainly the most direct, because this isn't a situation where she's been brainwashed, so she's not gonna remember. She has amnesia, so she's not gonna remember.
She's been kidnapped. She's at gunpoint. There's a bomb strapped to... None of that is happening right now. None of that stuff of being like, oh, you're just doing that because we're under duress. None of that. That is all out of the window. This is what it is.
Yeah.
And then after doing that, Ryo just walks off back down the stairs of the roof, leaving Kaori just bright red.
Just to stand on the roof for a very long time all by herself in her thoughts.
And the rain.
I mean, it's not raining yet.
But she's going to be up there, and then it's going to start raining.
It will rain eventually.
And so Mary was there in the stairwell overhearing this all go down.
Like the weirdo fucking creepy person she is.
And she asks Ryo, hey, so why did she pick that day to give you as your birthday? What's up with that?
Ryo's like, oh, I don't know. It's the day we met. I mean, it's whatever. I don't know.
Which tells you two things right there. One, both Kaori and Ryo remember the exact day they met each other. To the day. You only do that for so many people in your life. Yeah. Where you remember the date that you met them. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, one that tells us exactly when episode 5 happens in relation to Makimura dying, because we know it's a couple of days before Kaori's birthday, which means Ryo and Kaori's birthday are only 5 days apart.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
On top of them having, both of them having birthdays now, they could have a joint birthday if they wanted.
I guess, if they felt like it. Like, they go out of town or something, you just spend the week in a place, and then there you go, you got the thing covered for everybody.
Like, I could foresee Ryo doing that, like, hey, it's a party week, alright, woo! Just toss the babes up here, please.
Well, that's not a very fun joint birthday.
It is for him. So, yeah, Ryo takes off. Kaori leaves herself up there to cool off in the rain, but I guess stayed up there too long and has ended up with a fever. And so it's the next day back at their apartment.
Because she stayed up there for a full hour.
Just getting soaked, trying to cool off from all the feels that she got from everything Ryo just did in response to what she did for him. And now Miki is taking care of her in her room, like, oh my god, you've got this fever. We gotta nurse you back down to health. And I love here, we've never seen this before in Kaori's room. She's got a comforter on her bed.
This blanket, yeah, with a picture of a 100-ton hammer on it.
And now we need a blanket.
Well, yeah, I mean, we always need new blankets. I'm always cold.
You're always cold, yeah, but what if you had a 100-ton hammer blanket?
I would never get back up because it weighs 100 tons.
Oh, yeah, but apparently she can live with it. She can carry that weight.
I could carry that weight.
And so Kaori's asking Miki, who's there taking care of her, I appreciate you taking care of me. Hey, just so I know, because I've been out with the fever. Where's Ryo at?
Oh, he's out with Mary right now. They're doing stuff. I don't know what they're doing exactly. And Kaori is immediately pissed, like, excuse me? After all that, he's going out on a date with Mary? Where's my hammer? She goes looking for a hammer and pulls one out, but she's all wobbly because she's still sick with a fever.
And Miki's like, no, you're not recovered enough yet. Get back in bed. You can't handle this.
Oh, is this hammer always this heavy? Yeah, it's always been 100 tons. Like,
so
that conversation happens.
That's great. Like it's not like an imaginary hammer. It's a real hammer.
Everyone knows this hammer.
And so Miki gets her back into bed, and now Kaori's having to think about it, like trying to reassure herself. Well, I mean, yeah, he might be taking care of Mary, making sure she's safe right now, but at the end of the day, it's me he cares about, right? And then she remembers everything that just happened, and then she turns bright red again, and then Miki's like, oh my god, your fever just jumped by 3 degrees Celsius, my god, do you need a hospital?
So that's a fever of over 104.
Yeah, like it's bad. Like Kaori is very hot under the collar for everything that Ryo's got her thinking about.
Kaori's having to calm Miki down like, no, this isn't the fever, I swear. Miki's not having any of it. Either way, now we gotta jump over to what Mary and Ryo are doing.
And to his credit, Ryo is doing what you would figure he would do. He's got a hot model on his arm, so what's he gonna do? He's gonna strut.
Trophy wife her.
And everybody in the streets of Shinjuku is just looking like, oh my god, he's got that babe on his arm. Check him out.
I mean, do people really do that? Like, look at the guy. I wish I was that guy. Like,
no, check them out is what I said.
I know, but like, Ryo is such a weirdo next to her. Like,
I mean, he does have a very weird face on right now because he's aware of the situation he's in.
So Ryo's like, hey, I've got some ideas of some places where we could go. Why don't we go to this cafe? It's a very special cafe. It's one where you get your own private room all to yourself. Like, it really just looks like a karaoke room without the karaoke in it.
And the idea here is the privacy of the room will allow you to do stuff. And Mary's like, well, I don't know what kind of cafe that is. I guess we can try it. Ryo's just like, yes, let's get in there. So as they're sitting, Ryo's like planning his attack, like what he's gonna do, and Mary's just like, I'll be right back. And as Ryo's there being like, oh my god, I'm about to get some mokkori, he happens to notice on the couch cushion right next to him, there's a grenade.
Just waiting for him.
The pin's been pulled.
Grenade! Jump out of the way and protect himself. Mary's looking like, oh my god, an explosion happened. Oh no, an explosion. And pokes her head back in the door like, oh no, Ryo, are you okay?
And thankfully, Ryo had enough wherewithal to jump behind the big old coffee table that was in the room, which I guess is made out of steel? I don't know.
All tables in the Hojoverse are made out of some kind of extra protective durable surface.
Bottom line, Ryo survived that somehow.
So now they're like, well, I guess we won't stay here. Let's go to a different cafe. A normal cafe.
So once they're seated in the cafe, Mary decides to light up a cigarette, which she hasn't done over the last whole episode. So that's kind of weird. And she's asking Ryo, who does smoke in the manga and the opening.
Yeah, like sometimes he does it if it's cool. That's right. The way it looks to me.
And so she's asking Ryo, hey, you haven't smoked in a while. Why don't you light one up here?
And she just gives him one that she's already lit. So he holds on to it, but he's thinking, no, I don't want to smoke this. This is a non-smoking restaurant, which I'm shocked by, because one, it's the 80s, and two, it's Japan. Like, in 2008, I was still seeing a separation of smoking and non-smoking sections in Wendy's, okay?
And it's even more so now. I would almost say in a lot of places globally, they've cut down on cigarette smoking available areas.
Well, what they've done in Japan since a lot more of is having little smoking corners, like boxes.
Yeah.
Like, you go out into this particular corner where you just contain all of the smoke. You almost don't even have to smoke your own cigarettes. You can kind of just walk in there and hotbox yourself some secondhand smoke.
I mean, you could, but it's also disgusting to me.
Oh, it's disgusting. Yeah.
So Azrio's holding the cigarette up in, like, the air vent of the wall of the restaurant. There just happens to be a heat-seeking gun.
And Ryo, thankfully, is now holding the cigarette away from his body because he's like, no, this is a non-smoking restaurant. And the gun has targeted him, or has targeted the cigarette, really, and shot at the cigarette.
Just choom!
And so Ryo jumps out of the way, and it's still shooting, not at him, but at the cigarette.
But the idea is it's locked onto his general area. And he's having to return fire, manages to stop it, with 2 bullets.
But all the people in the restaurant see is, oh my god, a man with a gun! They don't understand what has just happened.
And so Ryo, with his quick thinking, has decided to tell everybody, hey, guess what, everybody? You're on a prank show! Hey, look across the street, there's a camera right there. Everybody wave to the camera, folks!
So here's where I feel like I might not have done this particular localization choice. And it's not because I don't understand why they have done the thing that they have done. I just would have done something different, right? So they decided to call the show that he's holding up on this card Pranked. Like punked.
Right, from back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I understand why they have made that choice. I get it. Contextually, that would be the similar thing that was more modern. But it's because it is more modern that I would not have made that decision, because this takes place in 1989. So, candid camera had been a thing for decades.
Right, exactly. And specifically, I think the sign he's holding up says,
it's Bikuri Kamera.
Bikuri Kamera. And Bikuri,
surprise camera.
Yeah, Bikuri means surprise.
Surprise camera.
Right, exactly. So the idea of translating it, I agree with you that it should have been something more like candid camera, because in truth, Japan still has these kind of shows all the time.
Hidden camera shows.
Hidden camera shows for celebrities and just people on the street. Some of the ones that I've seen with wrestlers are great. Mm-hmm. New Japan wrestlers and whatnot. But here, that reference, I would have gone with candid camera, because even then, people who don't know what that is could see that and be like, oh, I get it. I've never seen a Japanese, prank camera show, but I've heard of candid camera.
But they exist, man. Japan loves their hidden camera shows. Loves the shit out of their hidden camera shows. And everybody in that restaurant, too, is like, oh, it's one of these. And Ryo's like, look over there out the window, there's the camera, even though there's not anything over there.
But people believe it.
But they're over here like, oh, peace.
Let me fix my hair real quick, smile. And so they get out of the restaurant here, the cafe, and now Ryo's on the street, finally putting 2 and 2 together. I think someone is trying to kill me.
Wow. I wonder who.
And he still hasn't put that part together yet.
So we're in the park now.
And I guess they got hungry after the cafe, so they both stopped off at not KFC, but it's clearly a box of KFC.
It's a box that just says fried chicken, but it's in the KFC font.
And it's got, it's a white box with red stripes, so it's KFC.
Either way, they're standing by a pool of water.
Like a pond or a lake or something.
And Mary's like, wow, there's all of these Japanese koi, these giant carp in this pool. Wow, did you know that they can eat fried chicken? I've just been feeding them fried chicken. And Ryo, he's just an idiot. He just goes, wait a minute. Koi don't eat fried chicken. Let me see that. He just starts walking over. Whoops. And Mary just straight up trips him into the pool of water.
We can see she stuck her leg out.
This was
clearly
very easy.
Very deliberate.
It was very easy to trick Ryo into falling into a pool of piranha!
Yeah, it turns out these are piranha. These are not koi. Mary has accidentally, I'm doing air quotes right here, tripped Ryo conveniently into a pool of piranhas here in Shinjuku, in Japan, at this time of day.
Now, Mary does seem like halfway remorseful, but is also like, but I must do this.
And somehow, Rio, like, Power Rangers jumps out of the water, comes up out the water, grabs onto a tree.
With piranha all over his clothes and stuff, and one in his mouth, which I would not have allowed to happen.
I think he bit that one back. That's the impression I got.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that piranha might have eaten his own tongue. Like,
It could have, yeah. And she's like, oh my god, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, just barely. And she's like, alright, come on, let's get out of here. I know where we can go. And she, of all people, not Rio, Mary, guides them over to a love hotel. And I'm not sure this is one we've seen before. Hotel Ophelia? Maybe not. I'm not.
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
And Rio's like, oh my god, how'd you know I wanted to go here? This is my favorite place.
She's like, well, I just wanted to warm you up with my body because you just got yourself all wet, but I'm taking the shower first. That makes a lot of sense.
If this was me in this situation, and it never would be, if this was me in this situation, that would be the part that would be incredibly sus, because if you're trying to take care of me and I've just fallen in a cold body of water, by all accounts, I should be the one taking the shower first.
She's just rude, Josh. I just can't believe how rude this woman is. I mean, never mind the murderous intent. She's just rude.
Yeah, on top of everything else. And so Rio very quickly strips down because he believes he's about to have fun, sexy times. And in the bathroom, the shower head has started, and Mary's in there, like, almost praying, like, Lord, forgive me for what I must do now. Rio's creeping up to the door, like, hey, so, Mary, I figured now's as good a time as any to ask you, why are you here in Japan?
She's like, why don't you come on into the shower with me and I'll tell you? And he's like, hell yeah. And he opens the door and it turns out Mary's just been running the shower and standing in it with the gun pointed at the door.
And she's still fully clothed.
Yeah, she's still fully clothed. Like, you don't need to stand in the shower with your clothes. That, I don't know why. She could have just walked forward a little bit. I don't know. She didn't need to get under the water. And
Rio's kind of like, what? And she's like, you want to know why I'm here? I'm here to kill you. And Rio's kind of like, but why though? And she's like, I'll tell you when I meet you shortly in hell. Okay, here I go. Bang. And she shoots him in the head. And somehow across town, Kaori starts up from her bed like,
oh no, something happened to Rio. Somehow she knows. Because, like, they've got that invisible red string of fate or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't show that.
It doesn't show that. Thankfully, Rio was smart enough and Mary was foolish enough to not realize that Rio had placed a mirror just so in between himself.
Sure he did.
And the door.
I mean, I know that that's what the anime is saying, but come the fuck on.
I don't know that I've ever been fooled by the mirror trick ever. Outside of a fun house. Like, when it's just one mirror, you get, like, depth of field, you know?
You can tell when a mirror is a mirror.
Yeah.
You can usually tell. I'm not a dog. What are you doing?
Now, if you want to write that up to, well, okay, maybe Mary, with her dumbass being in the shower while it was hot, maybe, like, the steam obscured her vision, and that's why she couldn't tell.
But also, like, she's just really upset about what she's trying to do here, and she's making mistakes. And even Rio is like, wow, Mary, you usually wouldn't make such a stupid fucking mistake. What the fuck is wrong with you?
And as such, Rio figures, alright, I gotta sedate her real quick. So he throws her off balance by kissing her.
Which, I mean, bummer that he did that the day after he just did this really meaningful forehead kiss with Kaori. But it seemed fairly clear to me that this was a tactical thing.
Right.
Because she's already thrown off, right? She's already just all over the place.
She's clearly
right now.
Distraught.
She's
for
distraught.
Multiple reasons.
So he's just kind of come in to get real close to her and pricks her in the neck at the same time with probably a sedative.
Well, yeah, it looks like an acupuncture needle, so it was either like a sedative or like a pressure point thing.
Uh-huh.
It's one or the other. Either way, he has done this to knock her out and take her back to the apartment.
Right. So then that's where we see ourselves next, is in that apartment, and Mary is in his bed, or is it Kaori's bed? I don't really know.
I want to say she's in Kaori's room again, but
Maybe.
I could be wrong.
Anyway,
maybe it's the guest room.
Anyway, she's in bed, and they've left her alone in there.
Rio's having to explain to Miki and Kaori everything that just went down.
And they're just like, what? She tried to kill you? I feel like they're not concerned about this enough.
I got that same feeling.
They have an attempted murderer in their house. I feel like we should be more worried about this.
Also, when you realize that they left her in a room with a loaded gun.
That was a silly decision.
I wouldn't have done that. I would have taken the gun out, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Because Mary gets up, checks the room, and right there on the nightstand in the drawer, there's, I think it's Kaori's gun? Because it's a snub nose.
Right. It might have been Kaori's gun. Unless that was Mary's gun and she decided...
No, Mary was using a different kind of gun. She wasn't using a revolver.
Then yeah, I guess. I guess she just picked up somebody else's gun. I don't know. Either way, so she's got this gun, and she's like, well, I guess now is my time. I gotta try again to kill Ryo. So I gotta go walk into his room, and good, Ryo is just lying in bed, so I'm just gonna walk up there, and I'm just gonna shoot him.
Thankfully, though, Ryo is awake for all this, and she's like, wait, you're awake? And he's like, yeah, I'm awake. You gonna shoot me?
And she's like, well, yeah, that's the plan. And he's like, fine. Well, at least tell me why you're doing this before you shoot me, just as a last favor. She's like, okay, I'll tell you.
I'm doing it to save Eric.
Eric? Who the fuck is Eric?
Exactly. Like, would you like to tell the rest of the class what your project is on here? And she's having to explain, all right, here's how that went down. So, like, I kill people, right? We're clear on that?
Yeah, we know.
Yeah,
we know. We've been doing this for a while. We know.
Okay. Well, some guy met me a couple of years ago while I was sitting out by the pool, and he was like, hey, you could be a model. And I was like, what, really? And he's like, yeah. And that was Eric, and he became my manager. And he showed me you could do things other than killing. And I like him.
But now he has been kidnapped. We flew here to Japan, and we were gonna do modeling stuff together, and then some dudes stuffed him into the back of a car and then told me I couldn't get him back unless I murdered you.
So that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I care, and I'm sorry. I can't. I don't think I can do this. I'm having a real hard time with it. I'm gonna have to go to plan B.
And she just decides, well, maybe I should just kill myself instead. And Ryo realizes that's what she's gonna do, and he's like, oh, no. And just before she's about to do it, because Ryo can't get to her fast enough, you know who can?
Umibozu.
For some reason, he's
like,
here.
again, for the second episode in a row, Umibozu comes in clutch. Because he's there standing in the doorway where she is, and she was about to do it. She had pulled the trigger.
In fact, she successfully pulled the trigger, but Umibozu was there just in time to, like, rip her hand away from her head. So she shot away. Now there's a bullet hole somewhere in this building.
I mean, when is there not a bullet hole in this building?
I'm sure there's many bullets lodged somewhere in the walls and the floors and ceilings of this building.
Exactly. And so she's over here like, Falcon, what are you doing here?
And Ryo's like, ha, bet you thought I didn't know that you were trying to kill me. So I asked Umibozu at some point off screen, hey, can you check up on what the fuck is going on with her? And he was like, yeah. And so he did that, and he came over here to tell me about it. And I guess he came just in time just now.
Yeah, so somewhere off screen, Umibozu has done a ton of legwork. He has figured out who the kidnappers were, and has come here to tell Ryo, hey, I figured out who they are. If you want, we can go get their asses right now.
And yeah, so Ryo is like down for this. Mary is like, oh, I don't know. I'm not trying to get all these other people involved in this. Oh, what do I do?
It's too late. We're already starting. I brought a map.
He already knows all this shit.
Like, and he's on top of it.
And I'm just over here like, I'm just learning about all of this. What is going on? And
so Umibozu's filling everybody in about where we're going to go and whose ass we're about to beat. Across town, there's this abandoned, unfinished hotel. That's where they're all holed up in. It's some guy by the name of David Clive. I'm sure you guys might have heard of him.
And Mary's like, oh no, David Clive. And Ryo is like, David Clive. I don't remember that guy. Even though he probably definitely remembers that guy and he's just trying to play it off.
But Mary's having to remind him, like, no, you don't remember the terrorist from hell? We wrecked his shit on a mission several years ago? He's pissed at us.
And then he had to be deported from his country, which was, what, fake land? Now we got another fake land, Josh! Suddenly out of nowhere, halfway through this three-parter, because this is near the end of the three-parter, halfway through it, we have a new fake land!
That's right, because apparently this guy was the head of the CIA of the Duchy of Munacito. And where's Munacito?
Somewhere
Europe, I think. Because that's the only part of the world where you use duchy.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I very distinctly learned that in freshman year of high school, that duchies are just over there in Europe.
Also in fantasies. So this guy's pissed. He's trying to get the two of them possibly to even murder each other. Like, what if Ryo had ended up defending himself? I feel like that guy would have been just as satisfied if that had happened too.
I imagine that was the plan. Like, if he doesn't get one, he can get the other on the back end, you know? So Ryo's like, alright, that's all the information I need. Pack up, let's go, let's ride.
Mary, you go get ready too.
And Umibozu's complaining back to Ryo like, how come I gotta come with you? I already did all this work. How come I gotta do this? And in the subtitles, Ryo says, come on, don't you want to come and do some cool shit, Mr. Clean?
Which, I understand. We needed to make a choice to get across that he is using some goofy-ass nickname to indicate how fucking bald Umibozu is, right? But this might be the first instance where what you're hearing in Japanese is him calling him Taco Bozu.
Yes.
Which, taco in Japanese is not like the food taco, it's like, it's octopus.
Right.
So it's octopus head, and I don't know, I just would not have made this decision because throughout City Hunter 3 and City Hunter 91, for some reason at that point in time, Ryo never stops fucking using Taco Bozu at that point.
He goes on to keep calling him Octopus Head, and I think the other subs for those shows...
They always call him to Octopus Head.
Yeah, they
constantly.
stick with it. So it's very weird, like, where this is a very blatant... No, there's a direct translation for what he's calling him, and it's not that hard to understand he's calling him bald. So calling him Mr. Clean is kind of unnecessary.
I just feel like we had a phrase that keeps getting repeated. Why don't we just stick to that particular phrase? If it had been a one-off thing, maybe I would have understood. But as time goes on, you realize, oh, this is not a one-off thing. This is a thing he does commonly. I actually really hate it. I hate that he does it, because he's already got a bajillion nicknames for Umibozu.
It would be the thing, like, if you were watching Trigun, and instead of Wolfwood calling Vash Needle Noggin, he called him, like, Toothpick or something.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no.
Toothpick for brains?
Yeah, like, that wouldn't... No, there's a more direct translation. But either way, you know Umibozu's gonna go with him. He's not gonna turn down a chance to shoot guns. And Mary's trying to tell the both of them, well, this is a lot to take in right now. I wasn't expecting this. Can you just give me a few minutes? I'll be right back.
But then she doesn't be right back.
Because she takes a while, like, they let her go back up into the guest room or wherever. Ryo's like, well, it's been too long. I guess I need to go peep on you.
Of course, he's doing it in a really weird way. There are a couple of lines in this episode that for some reason didn't get translated. One of them was a hi, which, I mean, I guess that's fine, whatever, it's just a yes. So your brain just kind of fills that in. You know what hi is. Okay, fine. But this one here, as he's sneaking over to her room, and Ryo is just jumping around from one side of the door to the other.
He's using really bendy long legs.
He's saying ghetto, which, I mean, you might be familiar. It's just the sound a frog makes. It's just ribbit.
Right. And they didn't sub that.
No, they didn't subtitle, like, he's being real froggy right now and just jumping around like a fucking moron. I just feel like that's a thing you could have done, and I don't know why we didn't do it.
Yeah, it's a weird choice to have omitted that.
Anyway, so Umibozu also strolls up like, hey, what the fuck? Why are you out here stalking this woman's room like a weirdo? Ryo goes, oh, you're here to peep on her too, huh? Come on, let's go. But Umibozu makes a really kind of silly mistake. Like, yes, Ryo should be hit at this point. The problem is that Umibozu has kicked Ryo in the face in the direction of the door and is kicked entirely too hard and has knocked the door off of its hinges. So everything he was trying to avoid peeking in on a possibly innocent, naked, changing woman, if she had actually been doing that, we would have just ruined the entire thing.
Kind of like the same mistake Kaori made not too long ago of hitting Ryo towards where the women were.
In the locker room or the changing room or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, spatial awareness is what we're saying to you.
Right. The good news is we did not break in on her changing or anything, so nobody got peeped on. That's the good news. The bad news is that she's gone.
She is gone out the window and apparently jacked Umibozu's car. And we assume it's Umibozu's car because of the license plate, or not even the license plate. The front of the car says Umi on it in Roman alphabet, UMI.
And I don't know, I don't think this is his usual SUV. This looks like a town car or something. I don't know what car this is.
Yeah, it's drawn kind of weird. I couldn't quite make out the make of it.
Yeah.
And she's driving off just feeling sorry for herself, like, oh my god, I don't deserve happiness. I've done this to myself. I'm so sorry, Rio. My dear Eric doesn't deserve me either. I'm just gonna end everything. I'm so sad.
Bitch, we have a solution right now. What are you doing?
No time for it. Still Love Her's playing. And that's the end of the episode, with Rio looking in the wrong direction towards where the stolen car is. And we'll have to wrap this up next week.
Oh, we got one more for this season. It's gonna be over. I'm a little sad that it's coming close to an end to this, because I feel like this is probably the best season.
Yeah, arguably.
Debatably the best season. Like, obviously the first season is important, but it takes quite a long time, I think, for it to build up to, no, this is what this show feels like. It takes a while for it to get into that groove. But then this season, specifically, I think they really understood what they were trying to do with it.
Well, yeah, I think they'd finally found their rhythm, they'd found their voice, they understood who these characters are, and definitely showing the audience what makes them tick. And so now when you get an episode like this, and you have that really super satisfying moment there on the roof between Kaori and Rio, it means something to the audience, because they've been waiting for it.
Right.
And it's got all that weight to it. Like, even with Kaori being kind of tsundere with Rio there at the beginning, you can still clearly tell she cares about him a great deal.
For sure, yeah. I just feel like this could have gone way differently if Mary could have just calmed the fuck down for a second, right? Like, we had a conversation with these two other dudes, we had a solution to the problem, we can just solve this. We can just go, and we can just solve this.
Because we did kind of skip over that. Rio does tell her, you know, if you had just told me up front, we could have solved this already. Which is true. And he's saying, well, that must be part of us being all in the underworld. We're trained not to trust each other. Which again speaks to his relationship with Umibozu, because he trusts Umibozu now to do all this legwork for him and help him out.
They're just never gonna admit it.
They're just never gonna admit it, you're right. And on top of that, remember, Rio doesn't even know the nice thing that Umibozu did for him last episode.
That's true, and I don't think Umibozu's gonna tell him either.
Oh no, he's never gonna know. Rio will never find out.
Because Kaori obviously walked up to Rio and was like, so yeah, I know all about your past and stuff, and I don't know why you didn't tell me, but she never said, oh, Umibozu filled me in on the rest of this information.
She omitted that part.
So I don't know that she'll ever sell out Umibozu.
Well, I don't think if Kaori did mention it, I don't think that's necessarily her selling out Umibozu. Like, that's just her thinking, oh, he did a nice thing for me and I want to talk about it. I just don't think it's going to cross her mind.
Right.
But all that together is like, there's almost no reason for them not to be together now.
Almost. And yet, we're gonna just keep this act up for another 2 seasons, several movies, and a Netflix movie coming out in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, for another, 2 decades, at least.
This is more like, we're pushing 40 years now, so...
Oh, yeah, so 3 decades, yeah.
It's
been a very long time.
40 years is 4 decades.
What? You expect me to math?
Oh my god, alright. So come back next time when we cover the 63rd episode of City Hunter 2, Good Luck My Sweeper, City Streets for the Both of Us, Part 3.
And if you want to catch us both outside this podcast, you can always find us over on most social media. I'm at JoshKnightTheFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 114th episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, you're not going to be able to see Josh again.
Kaylin, they can't see you either. This is a podcast.
Why did nobody tell me?
What do you think we've been doing for 114 episodes? There's no camera.
But I can see you.
Well, that's good. That's a start. I guess so long as you can see me, that's the important thing.